Are we ready back in the back? Yeah. All right, good morning. Everybody here knows who I am, obviously, Deputy Purvis. This morning, we have a guest speaker. Her name is Renee Naiper. She's going to speak to you guys about something that's very personal and dear to her heart. I ask, as your school resource deputy, and as your, I don't want to say friend, but acquaintance here. Yes, acquaintance, good enough. That you guys show her the utmost respect, please. She's here to tell you something very near and dear to her heart, and I really appreciate if you guys gave her courtesy and sat back there and listened and did what you're supposed to. You're in high school, let's remember that. So, before we're ready, so here we go. This is Mrs. Naiper. I'm not very tall. Would you guys rather me be on the stage? Yeah. That way I can see. No, I heard one no. Is this better? Can see me better up here? I can see all of you better, so that may be why I got a no. You don't want me to see you. Good morning, everybody. I'm so thrilled to be here today, and I want to thank Deputy Purvis for allowing me to be here and inviting me in, and your school administrators, your principal, and just the sheriff's office here in Highlands County. The sheriff has been wonderful to me over the years, and all the deputies and all everybody associated with the sheriff's office. I've been here before to share my story, but you guys weren't in high school yet, so I'm excited to be back, and I'm happy that you're here this morning. And just as I start, I'm just here to share my story with you, and I just want to let you know that in the next hour that we spend together, it's my biggest desire, my biggest hope, that your life is touched in a very, very positive way by the story you're about to hear, and that you leave from here changed and realizing that you have so much power to make a big difference in the world. And I hope that all of you want to do that. So as we start, what I'd like to do is share a couple of videos with you, because I'm going to be talking about some people, and I'm a visual person, so it's better for me if I see the people that are being talked about. So I just want to introduce them to you. The first two are a couple of girls. Their names are Megan and Lisa. Megan will be on the left, and Lisa will be on the right. I don't know what the issue is with the sound. Megan and Lisa were celebrating their graduation from high school. They graduated from Gulf Breeze High School, which is up in the Panhandle. Pensacola. Gulf Breeze is like right below Alabama, Panhandle of Florida. And they graduated with the class of 2000. I have another video I want to show you, but we may have to do something with the sound as we go, because the sound is, or my speaker must have gotten jostled around. But anyway, the guy that you're going to meet here his name is Eric Smallridge. All right, maybe not, hold on. Yes?
We got somebody that's coming to help you.
We've got someone coming out to fix it.
These are right to kids.
Do you have speaker system connected to those, or is it just that main speaker that she's on? Oh, without dollars, they still get Bluetooth.
Where the wires across the right.
Yeah. Say it's Bluetooth, so that's reliable.
Well, without doubt, what the problem is, Alex can fix it.
Okay, Alex is the man to go.
And it's not, well, we have Mr. Mapes on standby. wherever he is. Is he nervous, Miss Covers?
All right,
Are you
guys, we'll
nervous?
try it again. All right, Eric Smallridge.
In this.
Let me punished. I'm only sorry to the families. What I've done. I put so much pain. There's nothing I can do. I ask God to help me. Anyway, but that's not gonna bring me to Lisa's back. At least it could. I would give my life. I would honestly give my life. If I could. Bring him back to me. I don't know how it must feel, but I know what I'm going through. It's gotta be worse. I'm sorry.
I know that was very difficult to understand, but I think that from the whole scene there that you can get the point. That was in a courtroom up in Milton, Florida, which is just right outside of Gulf Breeze in Santa Rosa County. I'm sure that doesn't mean anything to you, but it's up in the Panhandle, like I told you, right below Alabama. And that scene took place on October 3rd, 2003. And at that point in time, Eric was 25 years old. And you might think, if I told you that he was facing 30 years in prison, you might think that's why he's crying. But I can assure you that's not why he's crying. The reason that he's crying and that he's in so much pain at that moment in time and he's suffering in agony is because of the choice that he made on May 11th, 2002, when he chose to drink and drive. And because of that choice, two 20-year-old girls lost their lives. Those two girls are Lisa Dixon and my daughter, Megan Naiper, the two girls I showed you in that first video. These two girls. Those two girls had so much of life left to live. I think that they're beautiful. I love that picture of them. It says a lot to me. I can see things in their eyes that you probably can't see because I knew them. And I can look in there and see their personalities, which were just real bubbly, and they're the kind of girls that lit up a room whenever they walked in. I'm sure you've heard that said about some people, but I don't want you to think I'm trying to describe them as perfect. They were not perfect. But these two girls enjoyed life. They loved to laugh. They loved to hang out with their friends just like you do. They loved going to dances and football games and the beach. And they just really wanted to enjoy their lives. They had dreams. They wanted to get married, have families. Each one of them has siblings. Lisa has two siblings, a younger sister and a younger brother. Their names are Susan and Eric. Megan has an older brother. His name is Alan. She has an older sister. Her name is Michelle. And she has an identical twin sister named Carmen. About 3 years before Megan died, my husband and I divorced, and he remarried. And he and his wife had a little boy. His name is Chance. He's not so little anymore. But Megan got to know him for about 1.5 years before she died. He's now 15 and stands at about 6'4". So he's not so little anymore, but he's still her little brother, and she loved him. And I hope that as we take this journey together, as I share this story with you today, I hope that what will sink into your hearts, I hope you'll open your heart and your mind just to receive a message. I want you to know that I'm not here to preach to you. That's not good. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I'm just here to hopefully open up your mind to realize that DUI, some of you may not even know what that means. That means driving under the influence, and that could be drugs, it can be alcohol, and I can even say that it could be the cell phone. It's anything that takes your eyes off of the road and distracts you while you're driving. So I want you to understand that DUI is something that can be prevented and avoided. And this is what I hope you realize, that it's just very simple. It boils down to a choice. And I hope you realize that the choices that you make when you get in your car, some of you may not even drive yet, and some of you have been driving for a while probably, but it's so important when you get in your car. The choices that you make not only affect you, but they affect other people that are out there on the road. And so that's what I hope that you'll keep in mind as we take this journey together. And these two girls, you know, their lives were cut short. It was Mother's Day weekend. They had so much of life left to live, and their lives were cut short because of one choice. I remember when I got that news that morning. It was a Saturday morning. It happened about 2 in the morning, and I got the news at about 8:45 when my sister-in-law came to tell me. And when she was standing there at the door, I was really confused at why she was there unannounced. And then when she delivered that news to me that I would never see Megan again, I can't even describe it to you. Just how my world just shattered. It was obliterated. I don't even have words to articulate it. There just aren't any words to describe that moment in time and how I felt. And I screamed out no. I remember screaming it out 3 times and asking her if she was kidding and just trying. I was so confused. I just didn't understand what was going on. And because you know what? Death is final. There is no do-over. I was with one of my grandkids, actually 3 of them, but I was playing Angry Birds on the phone with one of my grandkids, you know, and I know that's an old game, but we were having fun playing it, and anytime I didn't like the way that first bird shot out, just do-over. But you know what, on this day, there is no do-over, and I knew that, it was so final. And I couldn't imagine how I was going to even breathe, how I was going to live, how I was going to get up every day. Because as a mother, my children are the most important people in my life, and I couldn't imagine living without one of them. And my mind was reeling, and I started thinking about the last time that I saw Megan. And it had been the day before. Megan had gone over to Tallahassee to go to school. She was attending school at Tallahassee Community College. Carmen, Lisa, and a bunch of their friends had stayed in Pensacola. They were attending University of West Florida. Megan came home for the summer. She was living with Carmen in her apartment. She'd only been there for maybe a week. She and I went to lunch on that Friday. Carmen had gone out of town. And I thought about our time together, and then I wanted to remember everything that we said. And I remembered calling her on that Friday night after our lunch. It was about 11:30 that night. And when she answered the phone, I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she said, "Well, Lisa and I are at the beach. We're just looking at the sky, Mom, and it is so beautiful tonight." And I asked her if she wanted to go with me back to Tallahassee because my daughter Michelle and her husband Scott were students at Florida State. They lived in Tallahassee. And I explained to her, you know, Sunday's Mother's Day. It'd be really great if I could have at least 2 of my 4 children with me on Mother's Day. She said, "Sure, Mom, I'd love to do that." So we decided that we would go to bed that night. She was going to spend the night with Lisa. We'd go to bed that night, and then we would get up the next morning, call each other, make a plan, and go from there. We said, "I love you." We hung up the phone. I had no idea that that would be my very last conversation with Megan. I want to encourage you right now to make it a habit to do your best to end your conversations with the people in your life as positively as you can. Because we don't know when a last conversation might be taking place. And if you just make it a habit to end those conversations positively, and I know, I'm telling you this because I know that we don't always get along with people. As I've shared my story over the years, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me at the end. And it's not at every presentation, but I've had probably 24 or more people come and tell me that the last conversation they had with their dad or their mom or their sister or their brother or their girlfriend or boyfriend wasn't good. And they feel guilty about it. And I don't want anybody to regret a last conversation. So if you just make it your habit, if you're fighting with someone, you just say, "Hey, you know what, let's don't do this right now." If you know that person's about to leave or about to get off the phone, whatever you have to do to make that a positive ending, as positive as you can, I encourage you to do that. Because like I said, I don't want any of you to regret a last conversation. I certainly am thankful that Megan and I ended saying, "I love you." We ended up having Megan's visitation on Mother's Day, and I spent that day with all of my children in a funeral home. One of them was in a coffin. We had Megan's funeral on Monday, Lisa's visitation that afternoon, Lisa's funeral on Tuesday morning. So we had quite a whirlwind of a weekend and all this emotion and all this pain. But I want you to think about another family that also had pain, and that's the Smallridge family. And I don't know that you can compare pain or not, but I feel like their pain was just as deep as ours. Mr. and Ms. Smallridge didn't want to believe that their son, at age 24 at the time this happened, that he could make a choice that would take 2 lives. He ended up telling them that a white car cut him off that night, so he pled not guilty and we had a trial. He was convicted of 2 counts of DUI manslaughter, and then in October of that same year in 2003, he was sentenced to 22 years in prison. 11 years for Megan, 11 years for Lisa, 8 years probation, And the judge also revoked his driver's license permanently. There's other stuff that goes with that sentence, but those are the things that I remember. And I remember the judge telling us that he could structure the sentences either consecutively or concurrently. Consecutive sentences means that he could serve them back to back for 22 years. Or he could structure them so that Eric would serve both sentences of 11 years at the same time and get out after 11 years. And the judge chose consecutive sentences. And that felt pretty good to me because I'd been praying about it for a really long time. And my family had, and it sounded like a just and fair sentence, meaning that he would go long enough that he wasn't a repeat offender when he got out. But we didn't want him to go for so many years and be incarcerated with other criminal-minded people that he became a criminal-minded person. Because Eric didn't have a criminal mind going in. And let me explain that to you. Eric was just like all of you. I don't think there's a criminal-minded person in here. I hope not anyway. I don't think there is. But he didn't have a criminal mind. It would be just like me walking out here and picking one of you and saying, in 10 years from now, you're going to kill 2 people, and you'd be looking at me like I'm an idiot. He didn't intend to kill anybody. That was not his plan. That's not what he set out to do. Did he know better? Yes, he did. Did he hear somebody like me speak in his high school? Probably. These presentations have been going on for a long time, where people come and try to share a story or tell you things that are important in your life. And that's why it's so important, I hope today, that you'll just let this message sink in and that you'll think about it, about your choices. But you know, that day, as we left that courtroom, I felt like that I should feel really good. I should feel 100% better. But I didn't, and I couldn't understand that. Because, you know, if justice has been served, why am I not 100% happy? Why do I not experience joy right now? I should. And as I thought it through, I realized it's because nobody won. We are all geared to win, and nobody can win in this situation. If you think about it, the only way for us to win, the Naiper family and the Dixon family, is if Megan and Lisa can come back. Doesn't matter how long he goes to prison, those 2 girls are never coming back. The only way for his family to win is if he'd never killed anybody, but now if he didn't have to go to prison for 22 years, that's like another life that's lost. When I think back on that day, and I remember a lot of things about it, but this I specifically remember, and this was a good thing that happened, 2 good things. I was able to look at Eric in his eyes. They give you a moment in time where you can have a victim impact statement, where you can tell the courtroom, the offender, the world, what's on your mind and your heart and what you've lost and how you feel. And during that time when I was sharing what I felt and what I had lost, I looked at Eric and I said to him, Eric, I forgive you. And then he, after everybody was done, he stood and he publicly apologized to us. That was the first time we ever heard him speak. And you heard that. It was on video. And I can tell you that we desperately needed to hear those words come from him. They ushered him off to prison. I thought about his mom. I'm a mom. I'm a mother of a son. And what I didn't tell you is that my son and Eric were born the same year, just a few months apart. I didn't know Eric until this point in time. But I thought about his mom, and I'm a compassionate person. And my heart broke for her because I could not imagine what that family was going through, and now that her son is facing the darkness of prison, and she's never experienced that before, he's never experienced it before, and how frightening that must be. And you know what? I'm thankful that I'm a compassionate person. Because as time went on, I had this desire in my heart to get to know Eric. I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to see what kind of person he was. I wanted to understand what was going through his mind that night. I just wanted to hear from him. And you know what? The legal system doesn't allow that. He went off to prison. We tried to go see him. You have to fill out a form and get approved. We didn't get approved. They don't want us there. He went to a prison where he was a maximum security inmate. And so he was writing to us. They allowed him to do that. He would send cards at Mother's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. And those cards were important for us. And I'm not the best letter writer. Good at emails now. Not the best letter writer. And so for me, and the first time I wrote a letter to him, I started it in December, right after he went off to prison. I finished it in February. It took me that long. I don't even, how do you even begin the letter? How you doing? I mean, he's in prison. He's got a lot on his mind. He's got a lot of darkness in his world. I had a lot of darkness in my world, the darkest days of my life. And just trying to navigate through that. My mom got on his calling list, so he began calling her regularly. I would hear about those calls. I started doing presentations. I started going into schools in 2004, March of 2004. You know, when Megan and Lisa died, I knew immediately what I needed to do. A lot of parents do that. You probably will notice that from this point on. Parents lose a child in a tragedy, and then they try to educate people about that so that nobody else has to go through what we've been through. I don't want any of your parents to know what I've been through. I don't want any of your parents to experience it. I don't want any of you to know what it's like to lose a friend or 2 or 5. I've heard so many stories as time has gone on. And so I started doing these presentations, and I've been very passionate about doing them, and I'm still doing them, obviously. And I was at my mom's house in 2005 one day. Eric called. My mom puts me on the phone. And the very first words out of his mouth were, "Ms. Naiper, I just want to let you know that I take full responsibility for what I did that night." I don't even know if you can imagine how huge that was to me, to hear him take responsibility. I'm sure your parents, your teachers, people in your lives, the adults in your lives are constantly telling you, take responsibility for your actions. Own up to what you just did. It's so important to do. It's hard to do, especially when something that you do causes a lot of grief for a lot of people. And now I'm hearing him say that, and that was so huge for me. And I encouraged him to send letters to everybody else and let them know that he takes responsibility, so he did. My daughter Michelle got her letter from Eric, and she called me. And she said, "Mom, is it a burden on you that he's going to be in prison for 22 years? And I was so relieved to hear her say that. And I said, yes, it was such a burden. I think about it every single day. And it was a burden because I felt like Eric was a good person who made a bad choice. And now he's going to be in prison for 22 years. And I don't even, in my heart, I didn't know if he could make it for 22 years in prison. Now, some people would say that they wouldn't care if he made it or not. But I did. I didn't want this to become a just even bigger tragedy for more people. It was already big enough and horrible enough as it was. So he wrote those letters to the people. My daughter calls me, says it is a burden, and I said yes. And then I'm thinking about what the judge said that day in that courtroom when he sentenced Eric. And I remembered about the consecutive or concurrent sentences. So I didn't know how to accomplish it, but we did. On August 18th of 2006, we went back to that same courtroom, and we had a hearing, and we asked the judge to restructure Eric's sentences so he could get out after 11 years. And guess what? The judge granted that for Eric. And this is a picture of that day. This actually took place when the judge went out to, he heard all of our testimony about why we thought that Eric should have his sentences run concurrently. The judge left for about 15 minutes, and we had our moment to go speak to him. And these are my children. That's my son, Alan, my daughter, Michelle, Carmen, Megan's twin, and of course that's Eric. What you can't see here is Eric's got handcuffs on that are hooked to a chain that's around his waist, and he's got chains around his feet. And this picture for me is just a beautiful picture of what forgiveness looks like. And let me just explain that to you, because I'm sure some of you here today are thinking, how in the world did this woman, this mother, forgive this man for what he did? And I want to explain that to you because you know what I know? I don't know you, but we're all human, and I know that there are people in this room today who have been hurt by someone. And you're struggling with that because you have a feeling that maybe you should forgive this person, but the overwhelming feeling is no. And the world will tell you not to, that you don't have to. And you have a right to do either thing, forgive or not forgive. And you know what? There's another choice that you have to make. But let me tell you about the choice that we made. When we chose to forgive Eric, that was not a choice that I didn't think about for a long time. And I'm a Christian. I was raised in a Christian home. That is the crux of what I believe. And I still had to pray about it every day. And I had to wrestle with my beliefs, and I had to wrestle with that. And what I learned about forgiveness is that we get hung up on things like thinking if I forgive him, then I'm telling him what he did is okay. It's not. And he knows it's not. That's not what forgiveness means. It doesn't erase what he did. You can't erase it. It doesn't mean that I have to forgive him and then forget about it. I'll never forget about it. It doesn't mean that he shouldn't be punished. We think, well, if I forgive that person, it's kind of like letting them off the hook. No, it doesn't mean that. Forgiveness is for the one offering it more than it is for the one receiving it. I learned this expression. I love it. I use it all the time. It's not an original of mine, but it goes like this. If you don't forgive, it's like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. So if you drink poison, you're the one that's going to die. The poison you're drinking is hatred and bitterness and anger. And I can tell you how hideous and awful those emotions can be. I've been to a depth of all three of those things that I never want to go there again. I didn't like that place. So if you don't forgive, it just destroys you as a person, meanwhile, not doing anything to the other person. So you're the one that really stays like a captive, like a prisoner. I don't know if any of you know Matthew West, the Christian music artist. I know y'all have the Joy FM down here, but back in 2010, I wrote my story into him because he asked people to do that. And it wasn't so that I could get any claim to fame or anything like that. It wasn't for me. It was because I've experienced forgiveness and I know how huge it is and how important it is for our world to know about it. He ended up writing a song called Forgiveness. It's been heard around the world. I've gotten emails from around the world because that's how powerful forgiveness is. I stand here today, it looks like I'm telling you it's easy to do. It is not easy to do. Some things, yes. Some things, it's definitely not easy to do. You have to process through it. But I just want to encourage you to do that because I can tell you, this is what I believe 100%, that forgiveness is the only way to heal. And I can tell you I've never regretted forgiving Eric. And I'm very thankful that my family has done that too, so that we can live lives that are free. And you know what? I never thought I would ever experience joy again. And joy is not happiness. Happiness is kind of a superficial feeling. Joy is what's deep down in your heart. I've experienced joy again, and it's all because I've been able to forgive him. And as the story progresses, you're going to understand more about that, I hope. This picture right here, my son had compassion on Eric, and you know what I believe about that? That picture is just huge to me as well. My son is Eric's age. And my son also knew that that could have been him. I would be arrogant as a mom thinking that my son wasn't capable of making a bad choice. And my son knew that too. And so he had compassion on Eric. Eric was not expecting that at all, for him to hug him. Healing definitely began that day. That was the hearing where his sentence was changed. And a lot of good things have taken place since then. I've continued doing these presentations, and right now the message that I hope that you take away from this today is such a simple message. It's just make a plan. I am here today speaking to students who are under 21. We all know that the drinking age is 21 and up. But you know what? I wouldn't be here today if people under 21 didn't drink. We know that it happens. Because I'm standing here talking to you about it doesn't mean that I condone it, because I don't. When I was 18, they had the drinking age at 18. And I don't know how many years it stayed 18. That would be some good research. But they moved it back up to 21. And I'm sure that it's because bad things were happening, because you're just not, things just aren't good when you're 18 and you're drinking, you got too much going on. So I just want to encourage you today, if you hang out with your friends and you're at a party and there's alcohol or drugs, and you're not planning on partaking in any of that, and maybe you are, but if you get there and now you've got the car and you've got to get home and you've done these things, you got to have a plan on how you're going to get back home safely. And you got to have that plan before you get there. It's that important that you make that plan, that you know ahead of time how you are going to get home safely. I call that the most important part of the plan. Because making the plan to get there, that's the easy part. And then once all the things going on have gone on and now you got to get home, You got to make the right choice. You got to make the right choice because you're valuable. Every one of you, every person in this room, you have so much value. You're so valuable. And I want you to understand how valuable you are. Value your life and value the lives of the other people in the world. Make the right choice. It really is up to you, and you have so much power to make the right choice and make a difference. By making a choice to either call your parents, and I know you're probably thinking that's not going to happen. I'm a parent. I've been through this. You know, your parents, if you've not had a conversation with them, there's a reason, because it's an awkward conversation to have. I'm going to show you a video in just a minute that you can go home and find on the internet. The video is called Choices. It's about my story. You're going to get just a little clip of it, and there's a 15-minute version of it on the internet. It's on my Facebook page. It's on my website. Easy to find. You can sit down and show that to your parents and then have a conversation with them. And ask them, if you go to a party and now you've got to get home, maybe the person that you're riding with is drinking or doing some drugs, and you want to get home safely. Or maybe it's you, and now you got to get home safely. Talk to them about it. I guarantee you your parents want to be the ones to come and pick you up. And you know what? If you think, I saw somebody shaking her head, and if you think they don't, my heart breaks for you. Because I can tell you as a parent, I don't love anybody in this world more than I love my children. And I told my children that I would come and get them, and I have. And I had plenty of their friends sleep on my couch. And I never called their parents. I talked to them, but I never called their parents. But there are other people like me out in the world. You have a resource officer here. You have people that you can call that will come and get you. If you don't believe your parents will. It's that important to have someone that you know and trust come and pick you up. Because what I believe is that for those of you who would call your parents, you might get in trouble, you might get grounded. You could even make a contract with your mom and dad. They have them AAA. You know, during this time of year, prom season and graduation, AAA has contract cards that you can fill out with your parents. And if you go to the prom and you drink and you've got the car and you call AAA, they will help you. They will tow your car home for free. Your parents will come pick you up and they'll get your car home. People know that too many people are dying because they're making the choice to risk their life and somebody else's life. And I'm just here to tell you it's not worth it. I guarantee you your parents do not want to get that knock on the door. That moment in time never goes away. I relive that moment a lot. And I don't want your parents to have to experience it. That says you're never coming home, or maybe that you're going to prison or facing prison for 30 to 45 years or more. So I encourage you to know what you're going to do. Make that plan. Stay where you are. Call someone. Have a designated driver in your group. Talk. If there's a group of you that hangs out and you all like to drink, talk about it. And say, hey guys, everybody's going to rotate. We're going to take a night off of drinking and get people home safely. Be the designated driver. I've always been the designated driver. And y'all may think that I'm a big nerd because I have been. And I didn't decide to be the designated driver because my daughter died in a DUI crash. I made the decision when I was 14 that I was never going to drink, never do illegal drugs, never going to smoke. I'm 57 and I've never done any of those things. And I can tell you that I feel like I've never missed out on anything in life. Some of you here are probably thinking, oh, you don't know what you're missing. No, I do. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. And if you don't think I know what drugs are all about, I grew up in the 70s, the 60s and the 70s. Think about that. If you don't know your American history, you need to learn about those days. There were tons of drugs floating around. So I experienced all of that. I had people trying to pressure me to do it too, so I know what that's about too. Make a decision, stand strong on it. If you don't want to drink, don't feel like everybody's doing it and you have to. Because I found out that a lot of young people are not. They're choosing not to. And I can tell you I don't regret the decision I made. If you choose to drink, then I just hope that you will make that plan and do it responsibly. I'm not here to judge you. If you've even gotten in the car before when you've been intoxicated, I'm not here to condemn you. Don't beat yourself up over that. Just put it in the past, draw a line in the sand, and go forward and say that I'll never do it again. I can't even tell you how valuable you are. I can't even, I wish that I had the way to make you feel that and to understand how valuable you are and the choices that you make and how they're going to affect your future and how bright your future is. I'm sure you hear that from people all the time, but I'm here to tell you it's true. You have so much potential. You have so much value. Whatever you're dreaming about, don't let anybody squelch that dream. If that's the desire in your heart, then you need to go for it. And you need to value yourself enough that you'll make the right choices when you get in the car. And if you're about to get in the car and that person that's about to drive you somewhere is either intoxicated or high, please do not get in the car with them. Like I said, you're too valuable. Don't risk your life. It's not worth it, even if it's just a couple of minutes. I can't tell you, I've been on a committee, it's a community traffic safety team. I've been on this since 2005. I can't even tell you how many videos I've watched, how many stories I've heard. I've heard real stories of people. People who I have shared the stage with a girl who killed her best friend. She didn't mean to. I've shared the stage with a girl who killed her boyfriend. She didn't mean to. I've heard of a guy in prison who killed his mom. He didn't mean to. I've heard of a lady emailed me one day and said, I'm in the biggest dilemma. The whole forgiveness thing. My 2 sons went to the car dealership. One of them was getting a new car, the other one was driving in there. They decided to celebrate on the way. They stopped at the bar and had a couple of drinks. Once they left the bar on the way to the car dealership, they got into a wreck. One of my sons is dead and the driver is alive. And now she's faced with, what do? You got a son facing prison and you got to forgive him for killing his brother, your other son. Guys, I don't know if you realize how important this is. It's not a game when you get in your car. It's so important that you think about the decisions that you make. I know that I'm kind of going long, but let me just tell you one other thing. The other night, I was on my way home from Little Rock, Arkansas. I had to go through Mobile. I'm on the interstate just east of Mobile. It's night. It's dark. And I'm going probably 74. There is a car next to me. I'm going with the flow of traffic. There's a big semi-truck in front of me and 3 cars to my left. I'm in the right lane. 2 lanes of a road. This lady comes up flying behind me and she wants to pass. And you know what she did? She passed me on the right, on the shoulder of the road, on the rumble strips, and she was going probably 90. If somebody had been in that shoulder of the road with an emergency, she would have killed him. People do stupid things. They don't even think about how valuable life is and how it can be over in just one choice, in a couple of seconds. She put everybody at risk that night. And you know what? About a mile down the road, there was somebody on the shoulder of the road with car trouble. So just think about your choices when you get in the car. It's so important. Don't ride with that person. Don't ride with a person if they're texting all the time. Tell them you'll drive. If they're intoxicated or high, take their keys, do whatever you've got to do, wrestle them to the ground, let their air out of their tires, for crying out loud. I've done that, it works. You can't drive with flat tires. Whatever it takes. Just do the right thing, value your life, value the lives of others. Take the keys, don't let them drive. Love your friends enough that even when it comes to that awkward moment, you'll just be the bigger person and you'll say, you know what, I don't care if you get mad at me, I don't care if you tell me you hate me forever, I'm not letting you drive tonight. So the message is threefold. I want you to make a plan, and in that plan it's that you'll never, if you can make a promise to me today, that's just like a treasure to me to hear. I'll never drive under the influence of drugs or alcohol or my cell phone. I'll never let my friends do it, and I won't be the passenger in the car with someone doing it, because I'm going to value my life and I'm going to achieve my dreams. I have a website and a Facebook page that I told you about, this letter that you can come up here and get. This is a letter that Eric wrote from prison. Just talks about prison life. He wrote it a long time ago. Down in the back, at the bottom is my website and my Facebook page. And if you have a story you want to share with me, I'm going to be around at the end, and I'd love to meet you. I'm a hugger if you want to hug today. If you want to come share your story with me, if you want to shake my hand, if you don't even want to touch me, that's fine. If you want to just come and tell me your story, or just come and tell me your promise. It's so important for you to do that, to take it to heart. And so I hope you'll do that. But I hope that you'll share this video. If you have a Facebook page, share this video. It's called Choices. It's easy to do. Go to my Facebook page, my foundation page, find it there, and you just share it. And then you're helping me get this message out. This is Choices.
Megan and her best friend, Lisa Dixon, were driving home after an evening of babysitting and hanging out on Pensacola Beach. Eric was also heading home from an evening at the beach. He'd been hanging out with friends all day and had just capped off the night with some drinks at a local beach bar. At 2:30 a.m., Eric was at the intersection of Fairpoint Drive and Highway 98, about a 5-minute drive from the bar, waiting for a light to turn. Eric was oblivious to the white car beside him until it started cutting into his lane. Eric's truck rammed into the back of Megan and Lisa's car, sending it spinning out of control before impacting the tree. Both girls' necks were snapped by the impact. They were killed instantly. Neither Lisa nor Megan had been drinking that night.
About 8:45, my sister-in-law shows up at the door, and she's standing there, and she said, "There's been an accident." It was Megan. She didn't make it. I learned what wailing was, from deep down in your soul, this horrible wailing comes out. I picked up the phone and said, "Hey, Dad." And he said, "Well, there's been an accident. It was Megan. She didn't make it."
He said, "There's been an accident. It was your sister." And he didn't even have to tell me which sister. And that's all I remember. A million memories, a whole lifetime, just flashes before your eyes. I fell on the floor, and I'm assuming that I fainted. I don't know.
I woke up in the backseat of my truck, and it was in the middle of the road, and I had no idea what had happened. The officers finally, they took me to the ambulance, and they told me they were going to take my blood, and I asked them why. Why do you want a blood sample from me? What's really going on here? And they said, "Well, that's what we're trying to find out with you." And I said, "Well, a car cut me off, and I tried to avoid an accident, and my truck rolled, and that's the best I can tell you." And they said, "Don't act like you don't know there's 2 girls dead in that car over there." When they said those words, everything in my life started to kind of flash before my eyes. My own life started to flash before my eyes, and I'm thinking, how could this be? How could my life have come to this? Part of me knew that I shouldn't be driving, but the other part of me said, "Yeah, but what about the other 50 times that you've been worse than this and nothing ever happened?"
On October 3rd, 2003, Eric was found guilty of DUI manslaughter and sentenced to 22 years in state prison, 11 years each for Megan and Lisa's deaths.
Eric Smallridge was a good guy. He had his life in front of him. He made a horrible choice, and the consequences of that choice, we can never back away from. It's there. It's there forever and forever.
A decision can be so dramatic that you graduate from college in April, and in July you go to prison, and that's exactly what happened to me.
If you get caught drinking and driving, you lose your license, you are adjudicated guilty, that is there forever. It can never be expunged or removed. Mom can't help you, Dad can't help you, Grandpa can't help you, I can't help you. There are consequences for our choices. If you drink and drive and kill somebody, you're going to prison.
The decision to drink and drive that night cost me everything. Everything that I had hoped and dreamed of kind of was just, it it was swept away all in that moment.
Well, I would say, if you're going to drink, and I would urge you not to if you're underage, but I'm not stupid. I know sometimes you're going to do it. If you make that first bad choice, don't make it second. Don't drive. Don't get in a car with somebody driving. Because the consequences of that can be life-altering forever.
If you make the decision to drink and drive, you are risking so many other lives other than your own. There are family members that you are hurting and bringing into this horrible tragedy. There are so many other people affected by that one decision that you've made, and then knowledge will tell you it's a very, very selfish decision to make.
A few minutes ago, I took a big risk when I told you that I never drank or did drugs or smoked or any of that stuff, because I already made this comment. Some of you in here think probably discounted me at that moment because you think I don't know what I'm talking about. And you're right, I've never experienced those things. And yesterday I drove here from Pensacola. It's about, I don't know, it took me about 9 hours or so to get here. And on the way I stopped in Tallahassee because it's important for you to hear from Eric. So Eric is here today. He got out on November 26th of 2012. He was here when I came before, but he was incarcerated. And so it's my privilege to welcome Eric Smallridge.
You know, it's only by God's grace that I can actually be here. We do this so much, Renee does this so much that actually this time I flew down last night. She met me at the Orlando airport. But Renee has made this, like seriously, she said that I probably had a presentation like this when I was in high school, and in a sense that's true, but I don't really think I did have the same presentation. I don't really think you guys grasp yet, or maybe you do, how much Renee really cares for you. You know, I don't know if you can feel it in her spirit or whatever and just see it in her face, but she really cares about you, and I do too. You know, this is not court ordered for me. I'm down here because what I see looking back at me is a lot of potential. But you know what else I know? There's a lot of potential to mess up in this world too. You know, and so it's your choice. Like today doesn't have to be like going to a funeral. What we're here to do is inspire you to make positive decisions on your own. You know, here we are in a high school talking about drinking and driving. We're talking about drinking. When everybody in here knows it's against the law or whatever, but I'm not going to get up here and tell you what you can and can't do. I'm going to tell you that it is up to you to decide what you're going to do. I'm going to empower you to make the choices, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to share a story with you about my life and the choices that I made in hopes that you'll say, you know what? I don't want to be like that guy. I don't want to have everything going for me. Really high hopes and expectations for my life just to one Friday night go out and throw it all away. Because in essence, that's exactly what happened. I was raised in a really good family. My dad was a lawyer. My mom was a school administrator. I have 2 older brothers. I was the youngest, so, you know, I had that privilege. You know, they didn't beat me up too much, you know. But also I could follow in their footsteps. They experienced things, and I could see them go through it so that I could make decisions on my own. So I really had, like, every opportunity there was to succeed. So I was just like you. I had that choice, that free will to do whatever. And so do you. But here's the thing. Renee, you know, she says she takes a risk by telling you that she decided at 14 never to try drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. And like right now, and back when I was your age, I'd be like, dork, whatever, dude, you don't know what's going on. I'm 38 years old, and it's only by the grace of God that I only had to do 10 years in prison. I was supposed to do 22 years in prison. And you know what I equate that to is my decision to experiment with drugs and alcohol. Because without experimentation, or if I had made the right choice to follow the rules as far as drinking and driving was concerned, do you think I had to go to prison? No. But that was my choice. Do any of you in here, is it your goal in life to go to prison? None of us have that goal. We want to be somebody. We want to make ourselves proud. We want to make our parents proud or our friends. We want to show out for somebody. But we don't see ourselves going to prison. And when I was your age, there is no way, if you would have been like, hey, Eric, you need to simmer down just a little bit because if you don't, you're going to wind up in prison. I would have been like, whoa, man, what? What are you talking about? I'm just having a little fun, man. You know that song that came out just a while ago? So what, we get drunk, so what, we smoke weed, right? I can't sing, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, when I heard that song, I was like, I don't know, that's such a good idea to have that song being played because when I was your age, I would have fed right into that. Man, see, so what, I get drunk, ain't no big deal. I got this, I can handle it. I had that whole Superman thing going on. That's why I wear this shirt doing these presentations. Not because I think I'm Superman or have good looking biceps. It's because it's the fact that this is a mentality that we sometimes adopt, and it's ludicrous. It is craziness. We are not superheroes. You know what? It takes the accident that you just saw, it took 4 seconds to happen. 4 seconds. I went from having this great life to making a choice. Can I drive right now? What do drugs and alcohol affect first? Your brain, your judgment. What do you think I thought? You think I thought I should get a designated driver or not drive at that moment? Or do you think drugs and alcohol was telling me, you're fine, dude, you got it. You got this, man. So that was me. I got it. I got it under control. DUI speakers, hey, thanks for coming out and talking, but you ain't talking to me because I got it under control. I got this. I know my limit. Y'all ever heard anybody say that? I know my limit. I'm not going to do too much. How many people that overdose thought that? And how many times does it take to overdose? 1 time. You know, recently I just had a friend of mine commit suicide. And I was thinking to myself, man, he doesn't seem like the type. I think what it really was an overdose. I think it was an accidental overdose. This man had 3 kids and a wife. You know, he was having hard times. He was going through like marital problems. Work was stressful. I think maybe he thought, you know what, I can handle this. If I just take 1 more pill, then I'll be that much more relaxed and I'll find the answer at the bottom of this bottle of pills. I don't think, and honestly, I don't think he meant to kill himself. I think he accidentally took 1 too many. And now guess what? His 3 kids had to grow up without a dad. You go out drinking and driving, and I saw this 100 times or more. There's dudes sitting in prison right now that got 3 and 4 kids out on the streets living without a dad. We've been in the female prisons. There's kids out there living without a mom, and you know whose choice that was? That was the parents' choice. They chose to leave their kids stranded on the street. We don't realize this sometimes, what we're doing. Just like that lady that blew past Renee on the highway, on the shoulder of the road, the emergency lane. She doesn't realize that in a matter of seconds, she could have just turned so many people's lives upside down, including her own. That's why, like Renee was talking about the plan that you have to have. The plan is, how are you going to get home? Who is this really going to affect? One of the worst case scenarios in drinking and driving is if you go out there and you get in a wreck and you kill yourself. That is not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is you go out drinking and driving, thinking you got it, and you kill somebody else. And you get to go to prison for a long time and think about it every single day. You get to think about, what if I would have just listened to that person that was talking to me about drinking and driving? What if I would have listened to my parents or my teachers when they were saying, look, drinking and driving is not cool. And I'm not just going to say drinking and driving. I'm going to say driving under the influence. Because I don't care how good you think you are smoking weed, that impairs your judgment too. Everybody knows depth perception. People's like, oh, I just drive slower when I get high. It doesn't matter. Speed is not always the thing that kills. We usually bring the car, but we couldn't because it was unsafe for us to pull it all the way down here. Renee drives a truck. This is how much she cares about you. She already blew one of her trucks up. It had 350,000 miles on it. She tows the car that her daughter died in for you guys to see. Now we couldn't bring it this time because the truck that we're driving now needs servicing, and we didn't want to put our lives at risk. But I wish you could see that car. Because if you saw that car and you saw it in the video, you'd look at it and go, whoa, that thing must have been going 100 miles an hour. it was going 38. It's not always speed that kills, y'all. Cars, I'm telling you right now, you don't realize how destructive they can be. And it only takes a couple seconds to slip up. And next thing you know, life is either over or somebody's completely devastated. I mean, it's over either way. Whether you kill somebody or kill yourself. Because if you kill somebody, you're going to prison for a long time. And then when you get out, it's not really peaches and cream anymore. Something you will live with every single day of your life. And that's what we're here about. We don't want you guys to have to experience that. And it all started with me in high school. So at the same time, Renee was like, you know what, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to do illegal drugs. What do you think I was saying? Let me try that. Let me see what that's about. Y'all heard of peer pressure? I don't know if that's accurate. Because, I mean, your peers might pressure you, but really, who pressures you the most? Is it your peers or yourself? Yourself. If you're anything like me, I wanted to be, I call it chasing cool. I wanted to be cool so bad, I would do anything just to be the cool kid. And when I was a freshman in high school, I tried out for soccer team, whatever, thought I was going to make JV, play a little ball, you know what I'm saying, make some friends. My dad was military, so we moved around a lot. We finally settled down in Tallahassee. I tried out for the soccer team, and JV was announced, and I didn't make the team. I was like, what? Thought I was better than that. I guess I was. They called my name on varsity. I was like, dang. I almost felt like saying, damn, they know. But, sorry. So I was like, man, I made the varsity soccer team. This is crazy. Look at me. So my head got all big. I thought I was all that. And my brothers didn't want to hang out with me, but guess what? I was hanging out with their friends anyway, because I'm hanging out with juniors and seniors as a freshman. So I'm thinking I'm real cool. So when alcohol pops off, what do you think I'm doing? Right. For real. Because I'm thinking that's the cool thing. I'm like, oh man, they're doing it, so I better do it, or else they're gonna tell my brothers I'm not cool, and my brothers I don't think I'm cool, and blah 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 blah. I'm setting myself up for failure because I care so much about what other people think about me. You know how many of those people I know right now in my life? None. But yet I was willing to do something, I'm not gonna say against my will, but I was trying to impress these people that have no bearing in my life right now whatsoever. And that's what we don't get. We're so busy in the moment thinking like, these are going to be my best friends forever. That's not how it is. You got to think, you got to do you. And if you choose not to drink it, not to drink, smoke, do illegal drugs, you're doing yourself a favor. One way or the other, you need to be true to yourself. You don't let other people's opinion of you justify whatever you're going to do. Because for me, that's what I did. I was like, man, I got to be cool. This is what they're doing. I mean, some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Whenever you try alcohol for the first time, you're like, man, this is gross. This is disgusting. Or you try it and you overindulge on accident because you don't know your limit. And next thing you know, you're hugging the toilet bowl going, I swear I'll never do this again. And then the next weekend, guess what you're doing again? And the reason why is because you're trying to be cool. You know what I'm saying? Or you're trying to find some answers at the bottom of a beer can or a beer bottle or a bottle of liquor when you're not going to find any answers there. You're going to find answers in having a backbone and standing up to it and facing your problems head on and saying, you know what, I can handle this in a sober mind, like Renee. You see, she underplays it and downplays it, but that's really, I mean, how strong do you have to be in a world so, when they cast judgment so much, in a world where everybody wants to be cool, can somebody stand up and go, I don't drink. I don't drink. Y'all having a cake party? Well, do your thing, I'm good. Oh, matter of fact, I'll be a real friend and drive you home. Imagine that. This whole thing about designated drivers, people are like, oh, well, whatever. When really, in actuality, you know how many days I sat sitting in prison going, what kind of friend was I? Going out drinking and experimenting with drugs and stuff, and then telling all my friends, come on, load up, we're going to another party. And I'm driving them around. All my friends, my girlfriend, people I'm supposed to love. Yet I'm blasted driving them around? What sense does that make? It took me a long time in prison to figure this out. I hope it doesn't take y'all that long. I hope right now you're tuned in going, this dude is right. How much sense does that make? Like, how many of y'all heard this before? Call me when you get home so I know you made it okay. How many of y'all have been at a party and there's a curfew and somebody's leaving and the best you had for them This is how good of a friend you are. And I'm not hating on you because I did this a million times. But you know, you're under the influence and you can't help them out. So you just say, call me when you get home and let me know you made it all right. Who is that really for? Is that for them or is that for you? It's obviously for you because you know full well they shouldn't be driving right now. It wasn't like y'all were at some study session studying chemistry and you think they're so tired their brain hurts that they should call you because they maybe can't drive safe. It's probably because you're at a party, there's been drugs or alcohol floating around, and this person's about to drive. And you know full well they shouldn't drive, but the best you got for them is call me when you get home and let me know you made it okay? Really? I would hope and I pray that you will reconsider. If you've ever done that, then you will never do that again. Because let me tell you what, you were setting yourself up for failure on that one. Because let me ask you a question. What if they don't make it home? What if they don't call you and you were the last person on this earth that could have saved their life? You think that's going to be easy to live with? It won't be. I promise you that. I know for a fact it's not going to be. It didn't necessarily happen directly to me, but kind of. You see, it was a Friday. And that's why I say a Friday, random Friday night, or choice on a Friday night can destroy your dreams. That's why you got to be careful. And you got to remember how valuable you are. You know that saying, you don't know what you got until you lost it? Think about freedom. Did any of y'all ever understand how important and valuable freedom is? Well, go around drinking and driving on a Friday night and then you'll figure it out real quick. How quickly you can lose your freedom. Mental freedom and physical freedom. It ain't a joke, it ain't a game. There's nothing to play with about drinking or driving under the influence of anything, including texting. You know, you're going to prison these days, you kill somebody texting and driving. They get your phone records, they look, you're texting, you're out of here. Life is over with. Let me ask you something about texting and driving real quick. How many people that died texting and driving actually thought they were going to be the ones that died texting and driving? It's not a game. And a lot of times, people take it seriously too late because they're in their grave. People are dying every single day texting and driving, drinking and driving, smoking and driving, thinking they have it under control when they really don't. For me, it was a random Friday night. I'm going out, having some drinks with some friends. No big deal, right? I was of age. No biggie. Heard all these presentations that y'all are hearing right now, but did I take it seriously? Nope. You know why? Because it wasn't going to be me. So I go out on a Friday night, we're hanging out at the beach, we're having drinks. We were at the beach that day. And we all go to leave. And maybe this has happened to y'all. Somebody might say, hey, everybody okay to drive? What's the popular answer to that? Yeah, I got it. I'm good, man. Thanks for looking out. Appreciate it. Jump in your car and you leave. That's why I was like, what about the other 50 times that I thought that I made it home? You see, just because you've done it before and done it successfully doesn't mean the very next time might be the time you kill somebody. So I want you guys to think about that. Because for me, it was that Friday night. That day, I was fine. Later that night, somebody called me and was like, yo, man, we're going down to the beach. You want to go hang out? I was like, look, man, I've been there all day. I'm good. They're like, come on, man, we're just going to have a couple of drinks and hang out. Nothing big. It wasn't spring break. It wasn't prom. It wasn't anything. It was just a Friday night. So I was like, all right, man, I'll come down there and hang out just for a little while, but I'm going to drive down there. This is where my plan went really wrong. My plan was to drive down there, have some drinks, but not have too many, and then drive home. That was my plan. What kind of plan? What does that say to you guys about how much I valued life? Like how seriously I took this? So I go down there, and I'm having those drinks, and I'm going to leave early, because I don't want to hang out all night. Whatever, you're sitting there drinking. One drink leads to another. You're hanging out with your boys, your friends. There's some girls you want to impress. So you're doing your thing, and the lights come on in the bar, and it's time to go home. So am I looking for a designated driver? Am I calling a cab? Or am I very sure that I can drive home? I'm real sure. They don't call alcohol liquid courage for no reason. I jump right in that truck like ain't nothing happening. This time it's a little different. It won't start. So it's like an omen kind of. But you think I'm seeing that? I mean, it was almost like God was like, don't do it. I'm not seeing that. I just pick up my phone. Hey, Mike. It's a buddy of mine. He was down there at the beach that night. Mike, man, my truck won't start. I need your help. I was so sure that I could drive this truck, I needed somebody to start it for me. I went to extra effort that night to drive this truck. That's sure. So Mike comes back. Mike's a local of Pensacola. I had moved from Tallahassee over to Pensacola to finish up my school because I wanted to get serious about life. And I was doing pretty good, except for I didn't take drinking and driving seriously still. Doing pretty good in all aspects of my life except for that one area. So Mike's a local there. I call him. He knows right where I am. He pulls in the parking lot. We start hooking up jumper cables. He looks across the hood of the truck at me, and this might have happened to y'all. Y'all ever tried dealing with somebody who's under the influence? It's real fun, right? Not at all. They're like spraying you with like saliva and cussing and telling you about yourself. And what do we normally do at that point? We're like, get out of my face, man. Don't get all that off of me. And then usually you get tired of it. So you're like, whatever, dude. All right, fine. I was just making sure. Go ahead, do your thing. Don't do that. If that's your friend and you really believe they shouldn't be driving, have a backbone. Do not let them drive. You obviously said something for a reason, follow through. If you got to get somebody to get their attention and let the air out of their tires, do what you got to do. There's going to be that awkward moment, I promise you. I've had it happen to me 100 times. We're buddies of mine. We're supposed to be real tight. They start cussing at me, spraying me, and normally I'll just say, get out of my face. And this is before the accident, obviously. They'll be like, I'll be like, get out of my face, man. Just do your thing. I was just trying to help you. No one can help you. Get out of it. Go, go, go. Don't do that. You're setting yourself up. You need to be their judgment at that moment because obviously they're not making good decisions. So follow through with that. So Mike, he's trying to follow through a little bit. He's like, yo, man, you all right to drive? What do you think I told him? He looks across the hood. He's like, yo, man, you sure you should drive? I'm like, yeah, I got this. Matter of fact, I started doing the whole thing. Oh, man, what did I do? Accidentally call my babysitter? What, are you my dad now? What's going on here? I got this. I'm a grown man. All the stuff that guys say, I have my Superman on. And so finally, Mike was like, all right, dude, do your thing. And as I was leaving, I yelled out the window at him, hey, man, I'll call you when I get home. And I left. You think I called Mike when I got home? You think Mike was real worried that I didn't call him? No. You see, it wasn't about that. Remember I told you Mike was a local? Here's how crazy this can get. You never see it coming. Mike came to my trial. He was sitting there and the lawyer asked him, hey, you know this dude? You know this guy? He was like, yeah, that's Eric Smaller. He's a friend of mine. I couldn't believe he said I was a friend of his after what he said next. They said, well, let me ask you one more question. Did you know Megan and Lisa? His head went down when it came up. Tears were streaming down his face. He said they were like my sisters. You see, Mike had known Megan and Lisa way better than he knew me. And I saw Mike a few years back, and I looked at Mike and I said, Mike, that was my fault. I'm the one that drove drunk. You just tried to help me out starting my truck, man. That was my fault, not yours. Do you think that made Mike feel any better? Not at all. Mike still lives to this very day thinking that he was pretty much equally responsible for their death because he feels like he should have done more. He was the last chance, he feels. And he didn't have that spine. He just said, all right, dude, whatever. So please, y'all, if your friends are about to do something stupid and you're their last hope, be the hero. Let the air out of the tires. Do whatever you got to do. If you got to fight them, whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm not promoting that. But do what you got to do to stop people from driving under influence. Value your own life enough. Y'all ever heard that saying, YOLO? It's real old. I know you heard it. What's it mean though? How many times? You only live once. Now, when I was your age, you know what that meant? Get buck wild, go crazy. Because you only live once. Let's drive, let's take a bigger shot, let's get the biggest beer, let's get some Four Loko, let's get buck wild and do something great. Because I only live once, I only got one opportunity to get crazy. But here's the fact, y'all. When I was sitting in prison, that took on a whole new meaning to me. You know how many times you get to live? Once. Y'all think that I wanted to live like this? Y'all think I wanted to be shackled and chained like an animal? The only life I get to live. Shackled with the wrists, then they put them to your waist, and then, to make it even worse, they're going to put them on your legs. And in the one earlier, They'll actually take the chain up from your legs to your waist, and then there's like about 6 feet of chain left over, so guess what you get to do with that? You get to hold it. So now you're walking around holding the chains that are bounding you. Anybody want that for their life right now? Anybody feel like drinking and driving right now? Well, here's the thing. Don't feel like it right now. It's Friday night. When Friday night comes, that's when you really got to think this through. When somebody's passing that joint around and you're supposed to be the driver, let it pass. Be the real friend that's actually going to get your friends home safe. Don't be that person that has to go sit in prison for a long time and wonder why you weren't a good friend. Don't be that person that has to sit on a prison bunk with a convicted murderer sitting next to you thinking about, how did I get myself here? I went from having a roommate that was a pre-law student in college to having a roommate that killed a correctional officer in 1965. And that's how fast reality changed for me. I'm talking about months. That was in a span of a couple months. I was a almost successful college kid, girlfriend, lots of high hopes and dreams, to being slammed into a 8x8 with a convicted murderer of a correctional officer. And it happened that fast. I mean, it really happened that fast. And you start wondering, like in the video, I'm like, how could this be? I'm like all stuttering through it. Because that's how fast it happened, make your head spin. That's why you gotta have a plan, y'all. Last thing I'm gonna ask you guys to do is not get in the car with somebody who's under the influence. Remember, you only live once. What are you gonna do with it? You gonna be a convicted felon? Or are you gonna be the president? What you gonna be? You gonna be the CEO of a company? Now don't let your actions speak differently than your words. Because you can say one thing. I was spitting all sorts of good stuff about who I was going to be. But I was out there drinking and driving and acting a fool. They got to align. If you want to be somebody in this world, choose to do that, but let your actions show that. Please don't get in the car. That one life you have. Y'all ever been in the car with somebody who's driving crazy, sober, and you feel like you want to get out, but you're the passenger, and what can you do about it? And you're like, man, I almost feel like jumping out right now, but I know that's not the smartest idea in the world. Now imagine putting your life in somebody's hands that's drunk or under the influence of some kind of drug. You only live once, y'all. Do not put your life in somebody's hands who is not all there. A friend of mine got into a car with her best friend. They went to a party. They started having drinks. Got a phone call. There was this other party that they really had to come to because it was going off. So they were like, man, we got to go. So what did they do? They ran and jumped in the car. She's in the passenger seat. What kind of control is she in that car? None, right? So they start going down this back road. And they're going like 70 miles an hour because this party is going off. And they need to get there. So they're going about 70, 75, cruising. And my friend in the passenger seat's like, whoa, we're going to get there, but you need to slow down. What can she do from the passenger seat? Nothing. She's got her seatbelt on, she's holding on to that little handle, but that's about all she can do. No, the emergency brake's down here. Yeah, they ain't no sitting there pulling emergency brake, and then you don't know, you want 75 miles an hour. Whatever you do, don't pull somebody's emergency brake if you want 75 miles an hour. That's a recipe for disaster. So anyway, I know a lot of these things go through your mind. I've heard somebody say, jump out. You're not going to do this. It happens too fast. They're going down the road, she's screaming, slow down, slow down. Her friend's like, I got it, I got it. There's a sign right there. It says there's 20 miles an hour for this curve because it's real sharp. She starts to slow down, they're still going 60. She didn't slow down enough. So when the car starts to break loose through that turn, what can she do from the passenger seat? The answer is nothing. The car starts to flip side over side. At that point, nothing she can do about it. It starts to flip end over end. 9 times this car flipped. She was ejected through the back windshield. She was thrown 100 feet or more into a thicket of pine trees where she broke her back and her neck. They had to come there, life flight, everything, tracheotomy, punch a hole in her throat just to keep her alive. What can she do from the passenger seat? Nothing. When they took her out of her bed, God's grace she lived, took her out of her bed and put her in her wheelchair, well, she'll be for the rest of her life, what will she do on that Friday night? You know what she'll tell you? She doesn't start blaming the driver. She'll look you dead in your eyes and say, you know what? I shouldn't have gotten that car. Don't make it be too late, y'all. Don't have to look somebody in the eye from the wheelchair and say, I just shouldn't have gotten the car. Make that choice today, when you can still walk on your own, to not get in the car with somebody who's under the influence. Because that's how fast it happens. Ain't no jumping out, ain't no reset buttons. It's today. You need to make that choice. I pray that you'll make that choice. And it's up to you. Nothing I can say can make you make that choice. You have to decide that on your own. That's why today is a day of empowerment. If you want to make your life great, then start off by making that promise. Don't drink and drive, though, under the influence of anything. Take life real seriously and live it to its fullest, to that potential that you have that's looking back at you right now. Don't fall for the temptation to throw it all away on one Friday night. There's a video that we play at the end. Don't end up riding in a truck like this. And don't be a person that without forgiveness and mercy, you're nobody. Because I wouldn't be standing here without forgiveness and mercy. I'm still, you know what my original release date was? 2022. One Friday night in 2002, I went out. And I landed a sentence that wasn't going to allow me to be free ever again until 2022 at the earliest. I'm not even supposed to be standing here right now. Mercy and forgiveness is the only reason why I'm standing right here right now. And the other reason why I'm standing here right now is because you guys. This is for you. What are you going to do with this? That's the question. Are you going to be like me and not take it seriously? Or are you going to take it to heart? As you're watching this video at the end, that's what I want you to think about. What am I going to do with this information I just got today? It's a lot, and we stayed here for a long time, and we're way over time, but it's important. Because what else you got to do? You got to go back to class, you got to learn some stuff, that's great. But this is all about life right now, y'all. This is about life. What are you going to do with it? You only live once. Make the decision today to be a positive contributor to this world. Watch this video and think about all the positive things that you're going to do with your future.
Well, that concludes our presentation today, but I want to remind you that we have these letters down here if you want one. Hopefully we have enough for you. If not,